It's a brand new week on Jasiri, and as always, we're starting strong. Mondays are for clarity, courage, and conversations that push us forward. And today, we're talking about leadership, women, and the gaps we need to fill. We're looking into the first ever State of Women in Leadership reports, a deep dive into where Nigerian women stand across politics, business, and governance, and why, despite progress, true parity remains far away. Now, from parliament to the boardroom, women are present, but too often not in power. So what's really holding us back? Policy, culture, or both? But of course, as we like to do, first let's welcome our very own Judith Atibi back to the table. Yeah. Juju! How are you? How have you been?
I'm doing good. How are you, ladies?
And so, because you're Jasiri now, you have to up the ante of your beauty.
Yeah.
Well, look, it's not about me today. I will say it has nothing to do with me. But the way you are so kind with your compliments with me, I'm always so thankful for that.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Everybody loves coming to Jasiri.
Thank you.
I like your energy a lot.
Thank you,
Judith. In the makeup room, she screamed when she saw, some visuals.
I need to talk about the visuals.
I wanted to ask her an inappropriate question, but I saw that our guest was there and there were a few foreign faces. I will have to ask you the question after. But I love your energy. Your energy is very infectious.
Yes.
So, Judith, thank you again for gracing the Jasiri.
Gosh, look, I never. Funny thing is, I gotta tell a story. I hope there's time. Forgive me, producers. So 2 stories. The first one is Tolu asked me on Sunday. She was like, Judith, was it Sunday or Saturday? She sent me a message Saturday.
Yeah,
and she's
Saturday.
like, Judith, you've been working Saturday, Sunday. Being my line manager. Do you want to take a break and then come back on the table on Tuesday? I said no. I said no. I'm coming in. You know what I mean? Like any opportunity to be here to to chop it up, I will. But funny thing is, I was with my folks and I've said this, that my dad is a media head. He's always been a media head.
So,
yeah. So we're on the table, normal, having lunch. Everyone's there, and my dad goes. He turns to me and he goes, "You didn't tell me Tolani works with you people." I said, "Don't even get me started." Who is Tolani? He goes, no, Oluni. I said, Daddy, you're killing me. You have to help me. No, that's lady on the radio now. I said, wait, Tolu? She said, I said, yes. I said, he said, and then he now goes, people pack big stars in your speaker.
Oh my God!
I said, I have to, and I said, so are you saying I'm not a star? And then I do that. I rage bait him a lot. He says, I don't have your time right now. He just says it. But yeah, so you're a big star in the house, apparently.
Hi, Daddy Atibi.
Enter Judith, Papa.
But seriously. And then he started calling everyone out. He says, oh, you didn't tell me. That's that Effie woman, which is you. I said, yes. Then they said, and my mom calls, of course, my mom watches you. So she goes, Lolo. I was like, yeah, everyone else. And she said, asking about Dashin's roots. I said, oh, she's Kaduna. She's from Kaduna. My mom now goes into a whole, tangent because my mom is from Kaduna. So, but it was fun that they really are, because they're all media heads, because they watch TV. So,
but you're half caste too.
Okay, let's see.
What is the casting?
Thank you, Judith.
Please. I'm moving the train forward. Judith, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your weekend. Lolo, how was your weekend?
I just want to thank you very much for this opportunity you're giving me. Honestly, this weekend was party filled. I had the pleasure of celebrating 2 media giants. Kikelome Atodawa Abati and her husband, Ruben Abati. It was his 60th and wedding renewal. Oh God, it was such a beautiful, beautiful event. Everybody was there. The Oni of Ife was there. Wow. The governor, and even the president had a representation. Oni MD, Obazi, creme. This one is creme de la creme. The creme brulee type. It was so wonderful. And, one of the take-home for me is that sometimes we need to really know that as we're growing in our individual careers and personal lives, you have to be very careful of the friendships that you make, your network, because at some time I found out that your integrity is what speaks for you the older you get. The kind of person that you are that will determine how people can show up and show out for you.
Right.
And that was really clearly seen, and I appreciated the fact that, you know, when somebody has put his years into work and people do recognize it. And on Sunday, I had another party to go to. My sister, Funke, pulled me out of my shell, and she gave me such a good time. Thank you, Funke Akindele. I love you.
So you want to say big stars on the stage?
I got up big stars, and Funke made sure that they dolled me to perfection. And she kept saying, I want you to wear the hair and look nice on your show on Monday. Another thing about women is that I don't think we appreciate the work that we put in enough. A lot of us women, we take leadership positions. When I look at Tolu after time, it's not just her home she's mothering. When a woman is in leadership, she's still extending her motherhood to, you know, her workplace, and that's what I see playing out in a lot of women's life. I'll tell Funke sometimes that when I see her all by herself, and humanity dawns on me, and you just want to literally hold her in your hands and say, you'll be okay.
Unstoppable.
Yes.
So there, for me to unwind today, I watched an animation called Coco. So I love Coco, of course. So on the afterlife, we have he goes to see his great-great-grandmother, and she has a spirit animal, and the spirit animal happened to be like a huge cat with a wing, and that's really who matriarchs and who women are when you think of the afterlife and the animal. And one person who is in that table, who I feel like her spirit animal will be a mighty cat with wings, is none other than Tolu herself. I happen to be her birthday today, ladies and gentlemen.
Today is our birthday.
It's her birthday today. Yeah, so
I'm the birthday girl.
She's the birthday girl. There she is, the birthday girl. I mean, she's not only is she killing it in the newsroom as well.
Tolu.
There we go. I mean, not only is she killing it in the newsroom, but she's also a wonderful boss as well.
This is Tolu's principal face. This is when Tolu is a mom. When she wears that mom at work. When she, please, let's do Tolu once said.
Wait, hang on. Tolu is a. I want you to keep that picture up to understand this. You know, how does someone double of being a baddie? Okay. Being a director at the workplace, being the boss, you know, a boss lady as well. The years of of experience that she has under her belt, not only on radio, television, and new media, but also inspiring new generations as well. And she's also a girl mom, and that means a girl is also going to follow that footstep as well. And so, big congratulations to you, Tolu, and you look fabulous. You know what I mean?
Nobody
fabulous, man.
Nobody should ask me.
She has been preparing us all week.
Yes, I've been teasing.
You know, sometimes maybe because Tolu and I, it goes beyond work. It's a sisterhood. When I think of my inner circle, she's one of my prominent pillars in it, and I like the way she does her life. Tolu knows how to be a baddie 100%.
Oh, that's right.
5-6 days. And I saw her evolve into a wife, and she's a fabulous wife to Uncle Rotimi, and now she's a delightful mom to Coco, our Coco. Everybody's Coco. Everybody's Coco. And it's always a blessing to count our days, and thank God Almighty that she has seen another round around, another round.
Another move around the sun.
365 days. So I've already told her how she's going to be. So it's a blossoming season for her.
I think Tolu is a... apart from, we haven't had the opportunity, we've worked together, you know, but I told her, I said, if I wanted to write her or send her a happy birthday wish, it's going to be a long letter. And I may not talk much, but you know, you have those kinds of friends that even when you don't see, if Tolu and I are in a hotel room all weekend, we will be all right.
Yes.
Because we'll be all right, because Tolu is the kind of person that brings out that part of you. Tolu brings out the vulnerability side of me easily. And she's been there for me. Tolu has stood in the gap for me in so many ways. I can't even say. But you know, it's not the Tolu and I don't talk every day.
Nope.
Yeah.
But she is, like you say, she's a pillar.
Yeah.
And maybe it's something about Scorpio, but Tolu has always been that constant pillar for me, and I don't take her for granted.
At all. We
never
love her
did.
to beat.
Outside work,
That's
though,
right.
when Tolu is wearing the work hat, I'm not near her. I don't used to near her. I carry my slippers and I stand by the door. And that shows, you know, the very sides of, you know, of what a great woman is, right?
Yes.
You know, the person who is able to be as competent as they can at their work and will not settle for mediocre or anything else, you know. And then somebody who's just a loving mother. Please, Tolu once said what? Peculiar. Peculiar.
Oh my!
Tolu once said peculiar. I don't know which I'm going to use for Tolu once said. It's just be like Judith. She just calls you and it's like, yeah, ma.
Judith will just say, ma, and I'm like, why you calling me
No, it's
ma?
command. Are you going to say it? Judith, ma. Before you think. Before you think.
I think I'll say peculiar what last 2 weeks when she was in her, is it Brazil, what they call Brazil mode. She said, sis, not now.
She told okay, come to my office.
Or when she's calling everyone else, she'll be like, guys.
She told you,
no.
Guys.
She told you, sis, not now.
I'm not having that.
Yeah, I'm not having that. What did you do?
It wasn't her.
If it were me, yo.
I just opened the office. I said, Tolu, say, sis, not now. Jesus.
I was dealing with something.
I was dealing with a lot. Oh my God. But I'll go my short side because Tolu can never speak Yoruba clear.
Excuse me, I speak of Gomashaw Yoruba. It's clear.
No, you people.
Yes.
But when you are speaking together, you guys are flowing.
I don't understand.
When you both flow, so I don't know what you're saying.
Oh,
that Yoruba, you
can't get it.
I'm just looking from. Oh, okay. Yeah. As long as there's understanding and comprehension, that's it. Yeah. What she said. Yeah, I think that's what she said.
Oh my God. The only thing we didn't bring is cake. And that's because Nigeria is hot. We're going
Well, there's cake.
There's cake.
Cake
just
is hot.
Even though it's my birthday, I made chocolate cake for you people.
She did.
And benevolent as well, I would say.
I made
She's
chocolate benevolence
benevolent
or the
as well,
fact that Tolu is like this and she can cook also.
Man,
She loves the kitchen.
It's okay, we have a guest standing by.
Yes.
Because you guys want to ruin my makeup on air. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't.
So let's move on. We'll go for a break, but before we go for a break, women are showing up everywhere. Yes, Tolu is showing up here, but they're showing up in government, in business, and community spaces. But how do we make sure that they stay, grow, and lead? Policies exist, talent exists also. So what is still holding women back? So after the break, to help us unpack everything, this topic is our favorite, Abosede George-Ogan, the founder of the Women in Leadership Advancement Network. She will be joining us, so stay glued. It's a great day.
And welcome back. You're watching Jasiri here on News Central Television. Now today we are shining a light on leadership, or rather the lack of women in it. From government to boardrooms, from the grassroots to the universities, Nigerian women are leading in service, entrepreneurship, and impact, but not in the rooms where the biggest decisions are made. According to the inaugural State of Women in Leadership Report 2025, women hold just 4.5% of seats in Nigeria's National Assembly and only 5% of local government chairperson positions nationwide. And so the report paints a clear picture. While women sustain our families, communities, and frontline services, their presence thins out at the very top. But there are bright spots, from judiciary, where women now hold nearly a third of senior positions, to states like Kwara, where women make up almost half of the cabinet. So what's holding women back from leadership, and what must shift to change the story? So joining us on the table today to unpack these findings is Abosede George-Ogan. She's the founder of the Women in Leadership Advancement Network, WILAN, and one of Nigeria's strongest voices for inclusive leadership. Abosede, you're welcome to Jasiri.
Really.
You need a round of applause because you're a friend of the
Excited to be back, ladies. Always a joy. Thank you for having me.
It's always her dimples and the smile for me. It's always, then we now get serious. Because she does have a serious face. And I know I'm about to bring up the serious face. Yes. So let's start. Abosede, as always, thank you so much for joining us today. And it's really interesting that we're having this conversation in the aftermath of what happened with Mexico's first female president. So while President Claudia Sheinbaum was greeting supporters on the streets of Mexico City, a man came up behind her, groped her, and tried to kiss her. The president, yes. But this really has to be seen to be believed. Let's watch the video.
The man is still coming close.
Wait now. So the man has been arrested, and during a press conference to address the issue, President Sheinbaum said, if I don't file a complaint, what becomes of other Mexican women? If a president can be, and end of quotes there. Now, if a president can be groped on the streets, if a senator can be harassed for leading, and you know what I mean, what does that say about the average woman in Nigeria or Mexico? What does this video even tell us about how men view women in leadership? We know Mexico is a very patriotic society, very misogynistic. They're struggling, very masculine type of society. But even a lot of people in Mexico were shocked. Around the world, people were shocked that this is a president. Whether you are drunk or not, you attempt to kiss her, then grope her in public. We can get into all the security issues. People are saying fire a whole security team. But what do you think this video tells us about how so many men, and in some instances, people, view women in leadership positions?
Look, I think the first thing I'd like to say, and you know, it's always important for us to look at the fundamentals, right? Patriarchy means male privilege, and it has shaped society in terms of the roles that women play. And I think this is fundamental, because when you hear norms, norms comes from what has been normalized. Exactly. So if we all see women's roles as in the kitchen and in the other room, regardless of the fact that the person is now your leader, look, the gap between your perception of their role and what they currently are doing now still exists. And that's exactly what just played out. That man is just demonstrating to us that, look, she's one of them. Yeah. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Remember last
she's my leader.
Remember when last time you were here, you said, I have one like you at home.
So this guy, in his brain, it hasn't recalibrated that this is the leader of the nation. All right? But the only way he sees her is as another female. And as a male who has grown up privileged in this society, he sees woman, female, as just another object. And that's what played out. So I know we think these things are logical, but they're not. And this is why it is so important for us to pay attention to the numbers.
When people were calling out to the security details and saying that they all need to be fired, I needed to say that I think that she needs more women in her security details than men. Because for a man to be able to do that is only because men think that way as well. Do you get what I mean? Like, they didn't see that as a threat first. That was clearly a man who was inebriated by alcohol. They didn't see it as a threat to even say, you know, they watched him, and then it was only when he had, first of all, kissed and grabbed before he tried to stop that, you know. So you can those are men, you know. Men, I hate to be generalistic about it, but patriarchy itself is an umbrella that men can thrive on. You can see he's, you know, trying to push him away. It's been done. If you are protecting a president, if it was a man that was right there in the middle, any somewhat threat at all, there is a circle around. He's gone as far as to come close, put an arm around. Come on. So I would say that, you know, again, it's my brain did that thing.
So this is the first ever state of women in leadership reports, a landmark document that doesn't just tell us how many women in leadership, but also the numbers, why the numbers look the way they do. So let me ask you, ma'am, what was the most striking thing for you? What was the first thing that caught your attention when you personally saw the final data?
So as you know, this is what we were attempting to do with this report is give a snapshot of women's leadership holistically. There are organizations that collect data here and there. but we wanted to give a holistic snapshot, and it's back to this situation that we've just discussed. So let me just call out a few numbers, because I think it's really important. I always come with the data and the evidence. 21 of 469 in the National Assembly, okay? 0 of 36 governors, we know that.
Let's repeat that.
0 of 36 governors, and it's not a now thing, it has never happened.
Yeah.
49 of 988 in state assemblies. All right? Please, we're going down. 41 of 811 in local government. Is that not the closest to the people?
Yeah.
Okay, let's come closer. 604 out of 8,773 councillors. Now, why is this important? Why is this important? Because you see, the society, the community is the closest to the people.
Definitely.
Do you want to talk about the violence against women and girls that's happening in the community? Very similar to what you were saying, Judith. If there are no women at leadership tables protecting, paying attention to, this is how we safeguard young girls.
Yeah.
This is how we safeguard women, right? There are no women featuring there. So these are not just, you know, and if you've listened to our campaign video, which is now out there, these are not just margins, they're systemic. And I think that's why we need to start paying attention to it. So when you ask me what was shocking or surprising, to be honest, it was just the fact that it's now giving us a full snapshot to connect the dots. Right? It's giving us a full snapshot to connect the dots. So some of the things that I think we should start to pay attention to is, when you look at the data, can we start to correlate the level of gender-based violence in a state to the number or lack thereof of women in that state? These are some of the data that I want us to start to connect the dots on. And I think that this is what this snapshot provides us. So it's a mirror almost, right? Where we look at ourselves and say, no, we're not just asking for quotas. We're not just asking. It is, as the video says, it's about justice. It's about fairness. And it's about inclusion. We're half the population, and it's long overdue.
Right.
You know, let's even look at it value-based. If we're looking beyond the statistics and seeing the numbers, they are very dire. When I look at it, I feel so bad. Like it's like a speck in a whole system of things. And how would you say that Nigeria values or undervalues women in leadership? Because if they place value on it, of course they want to make sure that the numbers are something to be spoken of. But because there is no value, even the ones that are there presently, we can see some of the predicaments that they go through.
Why are you clearing your throat?
Half of the time, when women speak about these things, it's as if our voice are so low, you can't even hear us.
I really like that you've introduced the word value. I don't know, there's a popular saying, right, where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. So that's back to this value piece, right? What is the value society places on the role of women? And I think what we're seeing are outcomes, right?
Of the lack of value.
Of the lack of the value. And you see, the way you think about it is a process. What you input is what you output. And that's what leads to the outcome that you have in society.
So we shouldn't act surprised.
So there are no surprises. And all we have done with this report is just giving us enough sufficient evidence to really play back and say, this might be why we're seeing some of the outcomes that we're seeing in some of these states. Should we talk about maternal mortality, infant mortality,
One of the highest in the
child
world.
malnutrition, child marriages? These are the sort of things that I think we should do with this data. So put this data side by side, states who have some of the, really lower indicators on this, and then say, can we see a trend here?
But I want to follow up on Lolo's points, because even though there are only 4 female senators in the National Assembly, what is the value they have brought to women? And I asked that remembering when, I can't remember her name, but when the senator, I think it was, I'm not sure, Ekiti, let me not get the senator wrong, but she presented the Gender and Equal Opportunity Bill.
Yes.
And the day of the vote, remember that some of the female senators were not even present in the National Assembly, in the Red Chamber. So are we saying categorically that more women equals better, more female representation at all levels equals better representation and outcomes for women? Or is it also still a numbers game because they're maybe just 4, they're unable to push through and have these conversations about these necessary things?
I think these two things can be right at the same time. And I think it's really important for us to stop making this gender equality conversation, women's leadership inclusion conversation only about women. It's about all of us.
Right.
So every member of the House of Representatives and every senator should be championing women's leadership inclusion. They should have a problem with the numbers right now. It's actually embarrassing, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is not every woman champions women's issues.
And we can all agree.
And I think we should all agree. And should I tell you why? Because we also grew up in the same society and we were socialized to believe that we have certain rules that we play. Now, that shift in mindset or perception is not something that happens overnight, because it took years and decades for this socialization process to happen. Right? So there is an unlearning that is required. And I think it's the same way you can have men, and I think we've seen a few of them, who are true allies and will do anything to ensure that we have women's leadership inclusion, right? Regardless of the backlash they would get for that, but they genuinely, and they're not paying lip service to it. They believe it. And guess what? So can we go to the private sector data that came out of the report?
We're going. Let's take a break.
Yes.
There's a lot more, and I know Judith has this very important question we need to look at. But at the end of it is also going to be a conversation about solutions and moving forward. Let's take a quick break. We'll continue after this.
Gosh, and welcome back. You're watching Jasiri here on News Central Television. The conversations behind the scenes, my goodness, if only you could be a fly. We're talking about women and just in power, and just the numbers, the dwindling numbers that we keep seeing. It keeps reducing every single year. And administration, we've been talking about why those numbers keep going down. But this time, let me just paint a picture for you. Nigeria is by far one of the most populous countries in Africa, but still in politics, women make up less than 5% of elected officials in Nigeria, and which is one of the lowest in Africa. And only 21 out of 469 members of the National Assembly are women. And at the local government level, which is closer to the grassroots, just 5% of women lead, just 5%. And so these are very staggering and worrisome numbers. Now, we've seen mass defections and carpet crossings lately. And it all seems to be a situation that I like to term the boys' club. And so I do have to ask, why is leadership and political leadership still the hardest part? I know that the National Assembly is moving to make a bill where there are reserved seats for women. Is that enough? Should it not start at the political party levels? You know, should it not be championing women? I want to see a woman as a political
National party leader.
National lady. So talk to me.
So let me respond to that, and also I would be referring to the private sector data, because actually what we saw is an upward trend in private sector in terms of women's leadership on boards. But unfortunately, if you take the 5 top 50 listed companies on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, we only have 5 boards of those 50 that women chair. However, in terms of the number of women on boards, there's been an upward trajectory. And actually, you have a few women as MDs of that, with the financial services sector leading that pack. Why is this important? Because in private sector, you can measure success. Right? If a woman becomes MD or CEO tomorrow,
in 6 months.
In 6 months, you can measure increased revenue by 10x, 20x, whatever it is.
Right.
What does that look like in political leadership? Do you see what I'm saying? Right? So there has not been enough incentive for women to be de-risked as candidates who can win elections. Does that make sense? So if you were to bet on a man or a woman, who would you bet on based on historical data? It's men who have historically won elections.
Is that no culture that has fed into?
Absolutely. So that's why we went back to the fundamentals at the beginning, right? But in terms of why it's being reinforced and repeated, It's because political leadership is seen as something where, one, you have to have a lot of money, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The second thing is you have to have what we call structure.
That's
Right?
Yeah.
And structure equates some sort of architecture that often takes time to build, that
Money
takes
to
resources
build.
to
Yeah.
build, right? And does take just some capital, whether it's social, human, all the
Whatever it may
capitals,
be,
right?
yeah.
And women have not historically been owners of these capitals. They've been contributors, right? Because I hope you know that the data still says more women vote.
Vote.
Yeah.
So
We
women
mobilize,
are
yeah,
voting
we vote.
men
Yeah.
for men.
Yeah, we vote men in.
My brain, sorry, forgive me too. So we're all on this table, we've been on radio, right? We've all been radio
Yeah.
hosts, and we've all at one point had to host current affairs
Yes.
issues. And we've seen how when we're
Men
looking for
react to
political...
us.
Yeah, not just react to us, but we've also seen when we're looking for political analysts, they're mostly men.
Yes.
I want to see, why don't we see women drive the political discourse
So-
when it comes to pressure groups,
Yeah.
you know, that are holding power accountable and setting
Absolutely.
agenda?
And it goes back to what I said about inputs, right? So think about it. How many women, I studied political science, right? But I'm sure there are more women who study political science, but as you know, there's no clear pathway into, then I'm actively involved in politics. So it's a value chain. And that value chain needs to have inputs, as I said. You need to have skills. You need to have access.
Yeah.
Because who are the editors? Who are the owners? Right? As a matter of fact, one of the things I like to leave people with as an assignment is follow the money.
Yeah.
Check who owns it. Don't tell me the woman leads it. That's also not enough.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes it's who owns it that calls the shot. The buck stops with the person who owns it. So to your point, I think what's really missing is that women are not the owners, and women are not the decision makers. And that's often the gap between why politics is just so far. Yeah. And that's why really they say you need a godfather, mother, whatever, right? A godparent, because it's not something that you can do on your own. And the final thing I'll say on this is, when men want to run, their friends write checks.
Yeah.
If women want to write checks, how many women
Have they?
write check?
Have the capability.
And it's not just about writing checks. Because the last time we were here, I think it was close to political season, we had a female politician who spoke about the fact that when she wanted to run, there were women who were saying, so my husband is going to be answering to you. I think she was running for some kind of party.
I obviously don't remember that conversation. Because
Not you, but it was that. Yes. She said it. She said that the other women came to meet her and said, so my husband will be taking orders from you, because she was running for a leadership position. And then the fact that the meetings were at night, oh, my husband will be having meetings with you at night. What are we talking about?
And it really goes back to that. I know we underestimate norms, but we shouldn't, because it goes back to what we have normalized as society and what we call right and wrong. And I think that's why, you know, for us at WILAN, as you know, shaping perception is really important to us. And we know that the shift we want to see from women being excluded to represented is really in the shift in mindset.
In mindset,
You know,
culture,
I'm
mindset,
even worried because we have some, you know, those little representation that we have. We have very few women in office, and many of them are not completely isolated. But what can we even do to be able to make sure that those women who are there are even protected?
Yes.
Even if I'm looking at it, let's look at, if we're looking at how much support that they get. I'm thinking about like the 5 female local government council women who died recently, you know, in their offices. Many, I'm trying to gather this thing in my head. Many of us were not satisfied with how they were handled. It's as if even the ones that are there, they seem to be not to be, they're left on their own.
Like what's
like
the
fend for yourself
structure?
How do we support the women that are even existing in those political spaces?
No, I think this is a really important point that you have raised, right? I think the first thing is that women, we need to just accept that we should have shared solidarity. Can we accept that?
I don't know.
Like, the fact that we are women, like, let's just have shared solidarity. And should I tell you why? Because if I walk in, there's a way I'll look at Tolu and I'll be like, are you all right? in a way that a man will not
You will not pick up, yeah.
Because Tolu can be on her period.
Yeah.
Tolu can be going through menopause. And those are not signs that men can
Look.
Do you see what I'm trying to say? So even start from that. That's one. The second thing is, it's back to the society. Do we value and protect? We just watched what happened in Mexico. Do we protect women in terms of, you know, their safety and their security? So that's the second thing. Then the third one is, what we currently have is a pressure cooker when you come to political leadership. Remember, it was designed for men, by men.
By men.
For men.
For men.
By men. So, to your point, the design of the mode of working as well is probably one that takes more toll on women. Now, remember that the other side of this conversation is why they say, oh, but she's too fragile, she can't lead. Remember Jacinda Ardern saying, I've given my best, thank you very much, I'm going.
But meanwhile, we see Twitter fingers happening across the Atlantic.
Do you see what I'm
the
trying?
The emotions blowing up.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to design systems. And if women are not in these positions, we will never design those systems. That's what's missing. So the support structure should look like, what are your needs? Think about a person with disability. Their needs are very specific. But if you do not know those needs, for example, I need a ramp to go up.
Access ramp,
then you will not provide that. And so I will not have it. And that's exactly what we're seeing. So what you're talking about is very real. But nobody thinks this is priority because we just don't have enough women on the table to take that perspective and say, you know what, these are the needs of women and we should have more things. Remember, and I've told the story here before, of the first ever elected female legislator who went to the National Assembly. There was no female toilet. So she wrote female and put it on one of the male toilets, because when that building was built, it wasn't
Nobody
built
envisioned
with
a woman being in that position.
No, ma'am.
You talked about the private sector, and we can see the obvious difference between the private and professional spaces and public sector and governance. And you listed some of the data, and that's really, really good to hear. And we see that it seems that the private sector is ahead of government. But is that really organic? Is it because, what is it? Is there a different type of pressure that is on the private sector to move? And then aside from the private sector, what sectors specifically are lagging behind, and what risks do they face if they don't change? We can look at governance as a sector itself because it impacts all others.
Absolutely.
So who's lagging behind?
So let's talk about who's leading. Financial services is leading. And as you said, always love to tell the story. In 2012, a group of banks came together, and actually shout out to Wimbies because they initiated this, right? And they went to then the CBN governor and said, we need more women in leadership, in banking, in financial institutions, right? And that led to what we know today as the Nigerian Sustainable Banking Principles, right? And one of those 9 principles is women's economic empowerment that actually says you need to have a minimum of 35% in your executive leadership and on boards. Now, that was in 2012, and the Bankers Committee adopted the principles. Now we're in 2025, 13 years later. Remember what I said, inputs, outputs, outcomes. We have over 10 banks being led by women. So this stuff is designed, and it has to then be intentional. That's why I say we can't just, it won't just happen if we leave it, and I want all of us to know that. So let's talk about who's lagging. No surprises, you know, utilities, the hard stuff, right? The manufacturing, the oil and gas, right? The tech, those are the, even within private sector, those are the sectors that are lagging. Again, it's the perception. Women are not supposed to do hard things, what we consider hard things, hard equipment. But technology is actually now leveling all of that field. And I think that there's an opportunity for women to build skills, new skills in new areas. Why? Because there's no perception of who should do what. Think about AI now, right? If you learn how to vibe code or whatever it is, it's not about whether you're male or female. Obviously, the challenge though is that if more men learn to vibe code, then it's now we code in bias, right?
And we're having that conversation tomorrow.
Brilliant. So, and it's the same thing with like renewable energy. I think that's a new space.
You don't think about how this energy impacts women.
Absolutely.
You know, funny enough, I had this conversation when I was at the African Energy Week, and one of the women who works in the in the energy space said one of the things they didn't know about renewables was that, guess what? When you bring renewables to rural villages, it eases women's lives, but it increases their work hours. Because before, when it got dark, everybody relaxed. But now that there's light, the women do what? They keep working. And I was like, I never thought about that.
Yes. Because the people who designed it, you didn't consult the people who were going to use it. So that's, I really want us to understand that inclusion, we're not fighting a we versus them battle.
Right.
We're fighting an us battle. Right? Because if we're not at the table, then we can't even... I mean, think about one of the things that worry me, and I know this must have been a topic on the show last week, but our National Security Council. It only has men. I don't understand.
You can also talk about health as well. You know, when it comes to health, science,
where the caregivers.
Technology.
I mean, one of the data, should I shock you?
Yeah, go ahead.
The National Association of Nurses and Midwives in Nigeria.
It's headed by a man.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
But
And how many male nurses do we have?
Like, you know, maybe they're 20% at best of the total population, but out of 11, there are 3 women in the leadership, and it's led by a man. So that's why I say always go to the top line, as we said, right? It's not about women just being there. We're there, but
are we leading there?
Are we leading there?
So how do we unlearn, relearn, and reshape the minds?
I love that
question. Because again, one thing you pointed out, and we've seen that very early on this year in terms of some rhetoric that went into the news, and you see that women came out in support of a particular figure, and these are women who I like to refer to as, you know, the old guards of patriarchy or misogyny. And so one has to talk about how do we unlearn, how do we relearn? Who are the persons, who are the guards of this new era that we're hoping that we create to change it? Is it the political parties? Is it media? Because we're doing our best. You know? How do we change and reshape our culture?
Fabulous.
Please, before you answer that, because of time, add to it Gen Zs and millennials. Because if we're talking about change, sometimes I feel like, you know, just forget us, forget certain generations. Focus on the generation that's not taking any BS from anyone. How are they also going to change things as they become the women?
So I mean, let's quickly take these things. I think first of all is I think you make a good point. We need to unlearn, we need to relearn. And I think we should give ourselves the grace to know that we can change our story. That's
it's taking too long.
I know, but
I
hear you, but let's commit to it first, right? So let's go back. We need to start early, okay? And we are all responsible because we contribute in co-parenting children. So that's where it starts.
Right. She said co-parenting.
Yes, co-parenting.
Most times women are the only parents.
I'm saying it as it should be. As it should be. Okay? So I think that's the first thing. Because remember that socialization had a process, it had channels. We need to go back to those channels. So I appreciate the media. Y'all are doing great, but y'all could do more. Okay? Thank you.
Take the challenge.
All right? Educational institutions. Religious institutions. So we need to go back to those channels of socialization and feed them with new
something different.
It's still input. It's still output. It's still outcomes. Right? So we need to go back to those same socialization. Then we need allies. And this is where, shout out to the men who support us and champion our causes. Because I say that because the power is currently in the hands of men. Let's not be confused.
And no one gives up power.
That's right.
Easily.
No one gives it up.
We're pushing for reserved seats bill. Do you know why? Because the 35% that has been in the national gender policy since 2006 people, they said, whose seats do you want to take? Because remember, they are 90-something percent. So who's 30?
Who's willing to give out that?
Do you want to take
30%?
So we now said, no problem, we'll keep fighting for those ones. Can you shift your chair so we can put extra seats? So I think that we shouldn't let this extra seats bill go to waste. Call your representative, call your senators It is important. It is important to all of us, not just women. So that's how we change it.
That's how we change it. That's how we say. That's how we do it.
She's always a force.
I'll be thinking on my shoulder, what more can I do?
So we want to say, Abosede, a very big thank you for always joining us.
Thank
and thank
you,
you
ladies,
for pushing
for
this
always
needle,
having me.
pushing this conversation. And I know we'll have more as people ingest the state of women in leadership reports that's coming out. Today is the very first one. Congratulations to WILAN on that.
Thank you so much.
It's important, and I like the fact that it doesn't just focus on politics. It has private sectors, it has nurse, and it has health and education, law.
Economy.
That's really important.
I love that. Education is
Yes, we love that. So right before we go, can we get it up? We have some nominations for Jasiri. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, Catherine and myself have been nominated for the 17th Global Eloy Awards in the category of TV personality. We need your help to make it happen. We're in a category of stacked women, and shout out to all the women represented in this category, but we want to bring it home for Jasiri. We want to bring it home for News Central. So please start voting. We need your votes. We need your votes. And I know that News Central will have more information for you on our social media. Only 10 days?
Yeah.
I know News Central will have more information for you on our social media timelines. Now, today's conversation reminds us that representation is not just about numbers. It's about power, access, and systems that either include or exclude. The State of Women in Leadership report shows us that Nigeria is not short of capable women. We are short of structures that allow them to thrive. If we want to change the story, we have to redesign the system from how we raise our girls and boys to how we select our leaders to how we hold institutions accountable for inclusion. Because when women lead, communities prosper. When women are at the table, decisions are more inclusive, economies grow faster, and societies become more just. Let's keep the conversations going. We'll see you tomorrow. It's still my birthday.